I could be a dancer moving to your song. I could be a lover till the night is gone.
The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium.
All right, we are back and we're live. Well, it's live right now, but I'm recording this for. How do I say? I'm already starting out bad. We're doing this live. Oh, I even got the wrong date on there. Just a. Now, you believe me when I say it's live? Hold on. I set it up early because. 6, it's 03, right? 03. I'm doing this early because I have to go drive out of town extremely early in the morning, later on tonight, as far as I'm concerned. And I have an agreement with the company I'm contracted to, and well, it didn't do it, and I'm not sure. So if you are listening live, cool. I can see we got boiled nuts already here in the chat room. But a lot of people are expecting it to be later today, and if they tune in, they will see this and realize it's recorded. And, I'm assuming it's not as bad as not doing the show. And those who wouldn't agree with that aren't listening anyway. So now last week I gotta plead, like, I don't know, insanity. I don't know, because it was a 3-day weekend. So I was going to do the show Sunday night. In fact, I had a fair start on Monday, so I was going to do a show, maybe a little longer. And we got 5 yards of mulch for the front yard. It's supposed to come on Saturday morning. Friday night or Saturday morning. No, Saturday morning. But it came Saturday night. So then we worked Sunday on the front yard, moving all that around. A lot of fun. But in my mind, it's Saturday. So we're done working on beat. It was hot out. We're moving it around. I come in the house. I'm sitting on relaxing, going through some YouTube stuff. And then Lucinda says, "Aren't you doing the show today?" And I was like, No, it's tomorrow. It's Sunday. No, today's Sunday. I'm like, oops. So at that point, I was like, I'd have 20 minutes to get ready, and I don't know. I was all beat up from doing all that stuff in the heat. So so there we go. There's my excuse, which is no excuse for last week. But here I am. Now we're live early because I got some stuff to talk about. And there we go. Steve is checking in the chat room. See, you guys are, if you subscribe to the show, or the YouTube channel, I should say, and you click the notify button, you'd be getting notified right now. Anyway. A few things. Now, You know what? I'm going to say a couple things about cryptos and Bitcoin. You know, I'm watching the numbers, looking because I don't at this point I don't think Bitcoin is going up to $500,000 or whatever. Now it may. At this point, I don't think it is, and we'll get into not Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank and a coming crash and all that in a little bit. But I think Bitcoin and gold, this is a Lionel deal, and I talk to Lionel regularly while I'm driving. And you can listen to the shows. I'll put the link to his playlist down. Oop, I got to go down here. I'm kind of off this way. And I'll put that stuff down there so you can watch it if you haven't already. But the idea of gold, I'm going to do this very quickly. The idea of gold going super high and hyperinflation in the dollars did happen in Germany. There's one thing different now that wasn't then, and that's the hyperinflation, if you want to call it that, is on digital money. And it's not getting in the hands of the people, so it's not being spent. In order for hyperinflation, you have to have more money available to buy things. Then the prices go up, and then you have to print more money, and the prices go up, right? So what's happening here is we have digital money that's being, just zeros are being added to these things. And when the banks shut down, you're not going to be able to get your digital money out for some time. I mean, a matter of a day, a weekend, a month, week, I don't know, whatever the crash will be. And so the idea is that people will be selling gold to buy groceries, to pay bills, because you can't pay bills in gold, and you can't buy groceries in gold unless you're living in a town where people are savvy to that kind of thing. But you know, I'm in an urban suburban area, and if you go to a gold seller to try and trade it in for cash to go to buy food, he's going to, of course, supply and demand, the price goes down. So gold will come back in the long run. Once the crash happens and they start to rebuild stuff, you figure things out. So it's not like get rid of your gold, but get cash, right? And that's what we're talking about. And what Lionel is mentioning is Deutsche Bank. Well, let me finish this thing on Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I think, will be sold off for liquid cash as well. Not the hardcore people, especially if you bought it really early. You know, you might have already sold a few and made some money. And again, cash will be the king in the short term. In a matter of hours, days, weeks, cash will get you through. And you can buy a lot with it because the prices, no one will be able to buy it. I mean, they might be able to burn the store down and steal it. But Bitcoin initially, I think, will, and this is Lionel's idea, and it makes logical sense, supply and demand. You need cash to buy things. Nothing else will work. Bank cards won't work. Yes, if you're already in an infrastructure that accepts Bitcoin or accepts gold, yes, you can do that. But I'm telling you, it's you look at all of the urban areas across the country, whether it be Austin, Texas, Chicago, L.A., even Spokane. I mean, all this stuff. It's but the one thing I've been afraid of with Bitcoin is starting to show up here. Let me get to the webpage. I've mentioned this before. Goldman Sachs-backed Circle creates a cryptocurrency Circle based on the U.S. dollar. The idea is what they're calling it the USDC. And here's the article. I'll post it on there. It'll be the actual value of the USDC will be what the value of the U.S. dollar is. So it's going to be completely irrelevant to the supply and demand and investing and whatever, so that you can turn around and buy USDC with dollars on a one-to-one basis. You could use the blockchain technology behind it in order to buy things online or what have you. And this, I thought, was my big fear for cryptos was when you have a USDC, a US dollar cryptocurrency coin that's tied to the dollar, so-called stable. I know that's, in reality, it isn't, but when you have that system going, A lot of people will go. I mean, the lay people who will learn to do that kind of thing will go with it because it's easy to tie it into a dollar. Oh, it's a digital dollar. Oh, okay, or whatever, you know. But that to me is like, when I saw it, I was like, oh, I didn't want. I mean, I thought that would happen, and it did. It isn't done yet. This is what they're throwing out there, and that is, you know. And then you have China talking about blockchain reshaping global economic structure. They're already doing it with the NEO. The NEO is a Chinese backed currency. It's cryptocurrency, though it's not backed by gold or the yuan or nothing like that. It's on its own, but it has the Chinese government structure wanting it. In other words, it's possible for them to use the idea that if you want to do business with us, you know, you can pay us in NEO and so on. So this is the thing that I thought of. I mean, people were talking about the banks or the governments making cryptos illegal and simply having it be, no, you can't use it, you know. And, you know, some tried. There's been some times when they try to knock it out. And so what they're looking at is that if you can, like if you have the U.S. dollar coin crypto, now you're gonna knock out like Visa and, well, except for credit part of it, you're gonna knock out the people who would get pieces of the action, PayPal, for example, if you were going to be paying online, and it will still promote the U.S. dollar. So I don't know. This is a brand new story. It's about a week old, but I have to talk with people and I have to kick it around to see what if they were to come out with a crypto dollar. How would that fare in the crash of the dollar? If it's a 1-to-1, it's going down as well. So I don't get it. If you're going to see a crash coming, the crypto dollar or the dollar will, you know, if they're tied together, will go down. And let me get to this. I have a lot of links on this. Now I got a lot of stuff that's not organized here, but there's an article, and I'll put these posts down underneath. There's an article on Zero Hedge, 12 indications the next major global economic crisis could be just around the corner. And I did on Facebook anyway, I cut out the 12. But number 12 is the German banking giant Deutsche Bank had just announced that they'll be cutting another 7,000 jobs, seeking to turn the page on years of losses. Now, Lionel has been big at pointing, and I have the links for his talks. He's been talking about Deutsche Bank being the new Lehman Brothers movement. In fact, they mentioned this. This is like it's a page right out of what Lionel's been talking about in this article. Now, what I did, see if this will work. Yeah, there we go. Here is a graph of Deutsche Bank over the years. And at one point, this is a static picture, but at one point it was, I think it was $143 or something was the high point. And then it crashed, boom, when it went down into the 2008 crash market, and it went down to like 20, I think it's 24. I don't think I have the exact trough highlighted. It's hard to do it online. And the current trading at this time was down to, was it $12? And it went down farther and it went back up to 12. And I guess I could look up right now real quick. Bank price. Oops. The noise gate is yeah. See, so it did go up slightly, and it's up to 11. But if you look down in the details, it doesn't show their the profit earning, the ratio. They don't show how much they're losing, and when you get into the details, it shows that it's down quite a bit in profits. So this after-hour trading, I think, is trying to get people, when it goes online, boom, it goes down, So this is the thing to watch, and what Lionel is warning on, and again, it's not that I'm just simply listening to Lionel. He's made his argument, and it makes a lot of sense to me, especially based on past practice. And he's one who has made a pile of money on the gold market in the past. He is looking at this initial crash to be a cash is king for the short term, and then your other assets go up. So I got those links and showing you, and I think the banks are being propped up because, I mean, look at all the increases. Let me go back to this. Look at all the increases in the stock market since Trump was elected. Right? It's, it went up to $2,500, $25,000. Well, look, Deutsche Bank has been going down the entire time. So that's the problem, is that the banks are being propped up, and when the prop is kicked away, what about program trading? It's just boom, it goes down. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. I got a bunch of links here. I'll put them all for those who on Facebook. You can just go down and see it all. But troubled Deutsche Bank. The bank, the CEO said, "I'm sick and tired of bad news." It's like, well, pal, why don't you have something that's worth anything, And so I got articles even from Germany, the American, the English, Der Spiegel, Spiegel, Deutsch, and talking about this is what greed, and this article actually is, it's several months old. Okay, so this article, but greed, provincialism, cowardice, unfocused aggression, mania, egotism, immaturity, mendacity, incompetence, weakness, pride, blundering, decadence, arrogance, a need for admiration, naivete. If you're looking for words that explain the fall of Deutsche Bank, you can choose freely and justifiably from the above list. So this is the bank to watch. And I don't know, I don't have money on the long side in the market. If I did, I'd long gone sold, right? In fact, I'm probably mourning not selling the Bitcoin when it was up to 20 grand, and then bought some more when they went down. But I mean, at one point, if you would have sold at 20 grand, you could have bought almost 4 for that one, a 4-to-1 split. Anyway. Back to this. So that's an important thing. And I got links to Lionel's stuff, and I'll put it down there. But, pay attention to it. If you have cash in the bank, take it out. I mean, it's as simple as that. Don't tell anybody. Keep it stashed, safe, sound. Because remember, the asset forfeiture rules, if they come into you got it in your trunk, and you get stopped, they'll just take it and say, oh, you were going to buy drugs with it. You were going to do illicit gains or whatever action with it, which is ridiculous, but this is the things you got to worry about, because when the crash does come, you'll be able to buy things with cash, because that'll be the short-term thing. All right, I'm tired of saying that. You're probably tired of me hearing it, and if you don't believe it or accept it by now, you're not going to, so... But I do want to mention this. There's a link that I'm going to put down here for Memorial Day where a real good presentation. Now, why it's graphic, I have no idea, and I don't know about the copyrights and all that. So I'll put the links to this on it. But it goes through and it explains the various forms of government. That it's I'll say this one thing and then you can watch it. It's not about left and right. There's not two forms of government, left or right. Left and right is all under an oligarchy, or in other words, a group of people who are ruling, whether it be ideologically group, communist, socialist, whatever, capitalist in the negative capitalist sense, or whether it's a bankers or what have you. You're an oligarchy, you have this rule by a group of people. So if you're left or right, it still goes that way. Very good logical adaptation of what really is government's all about. And that's a great link, and I will put that below. I don't think I could just say it. Walter Burian, again, One of the big interviews I've done in my time is Walter Burien. He is talks about the CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Finance Report. It shows that there is a money that's hidden. They lose money on the budget side, but there's investments that the government makes in bonds and what have you that is taking money. Now, some people, it's really important to look into this, especially after the crash, to try and make sense of things. Of course, Tommy Robinson, he has been arrested for simply covering with at this point with his iPhone. I believe it was an iPhone, but his smartphone. He's covering a trial that's going on, and it was said you cannot cover this trial. And the trial was on the grooming gangs, which is sounds like it's a barbershop quartet, right? No, it's raping of children. Let's say non-Muslim children by a group of crazy Muslim types. I mean, I had a friend who was a real nice guy who was a Muslim. I had no problem with him. So, but when you have the crazy types, it's in their system to do these things. It's okay, So he's covering this stuff, and he's being called, the right wing and a white nationalist and all these negative names that are used to cover people who are telling the truth about things, because the groups in power are using these things. It's a different race or religion, so now we can yell racism at you when you point out that they're doing things that are wrong. You can't do that. It's racist, So, and we'll get to that a little bit later with the Rosanne thing. So I got a bunch of links for Tommy Robinson. And this guy is a true, I mean, and this guy's out there. Now he's in prison, with, Muslim gangs who are in prison as a result of being, he's in there with them for pointing out true things. So, 1984 has already hit Britain. In fact, I recommend people watch the movie V for Vendetta, which is set in Britain. But Tommy Robinson is and he's making a stand. And then, of course, the newspaper puts out his family's home address, so now his wife and kids are at risk. I mean, it's disgusting. It's despicable. This is something people have to understand. The so-called left, all right, they're not really, they're residing in the infrastructure of the left, but they are monsters who are residing in there and have kicked out a lot of the good people on the left. And what they want to do is they are going out there and they are going to absolutely decimate the masses who disagree with them. I mean, you must read Brave New World. In fact, I was going to play a quote from it, but I made a bumper music that has the quote in it, and I think I'm going to have trouble with the bumper music, and so forth. Ann McWilliams was that bumper music I played in the beginning, and I have her permission. She's the artist and the record company, so. But there's a quotes from 1984 where they tell you right off the bat, it's like, hey, it's not having power, it's using power. You must go in and beat people into the ground and continue to do that to enjoy your power. You can't just have it. It's like somebody having a financial security and someone else has to spend it all in order to enjoy the money versus you can't. And this is the pure evil. It's just absolutely disgustingly horrible. And this is what's going on. And now you have people in Europe, England and Europe, Germany, Sweden, they're all tolerating all this stuff. For the leftists who support them, they're taking over the leftist people. But they're using leftist terms like, well, you have to have diversity, we have to understand and help. And meanwhile, they're okaying these people, basically allowing them to do these things. So Tommy Robinson is one of those heroes guys who are standing up. And it is, in fact, I had one guy comment on my post of Tommy Robinson that he is some kind of Zionist agent or something. And I'll get to my talk here eventually about that whole thing. It's like he's pointing out people who are breaking the law. Now, if he's a Zionist agent trying to make Arabs look bad or Muslims look bad? Is that what the point is? I mean, I don't have a lot of patience for this stuff. I'll get to it. Roseanne Barr, now she mentioned, I mean, I might as well do this since I saw her picture here. She, of course, has this tweet, it's old news by now, that she compared that news lady to the lady who's on the original Planet of the Apes. And the funny thing about it is if you look at the side-by-side pictures, there is a real, eye relationship, the skin color. Yeah, it's a monkey, but she didn't realize that she was even black. In fact, she said that she thought she was similar in to her. And I think I believe that. I believe that's true. Now, Roseanne has an edge, and I'm not a supporter of Roseanne, but she has an edge. But what I don't like is you're not interested in what the person really was thinking at the time. You're interested in how you could spin this politically. Oh, she used the word monkey, and a lady who has African American lineage. Oh, it's despicable. It's visceral. What are some of the words they're using? It's ridiculous. Is that maybe you want to say that she shouldn't be comparing any a human to a monkey or what have you, or if she was on the edge, but we're having comments from the late night talk show host guys, and the links are out there. I didn't bother to share them, showing how they're talking about Trump being compared to an orangutan, being orange, but it's okay because he's not black, so you can do that, and he's a Nazi, so it's okay. This is the stuff that is very aggravating. Is that they're using narratives that are not true to justify what they're doing. And they have no interest in what was really intended. So Roseanne, when she got all the slack, I didn't even know she was black. She looks kind of like me. So problem is that Roseanne's not on the left page, and so they need something to happen to get her. And they had that little thing came up, boom, they just pounced on it, right? Trump talks about the MS-13 being animals, and they're like, oh, Nancy Pelosi's like, but, all humans have the spirit of God. Yeah, if you're going to that way about it, so does what's this now? Basically, the video describes the valid legal reasons why Tommy has been charged. Valid legal reasons. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure they arrested him for valid legal reasons. They made it illegal to cover the trial. But is that making it illegal, is that a valid law? It's a law in England, so it's valid legally, but is the law morally correct? I lost my train of thought on. I shouldn't look in the chat room. Let me glance down here. Now, I've mentioned this. These are things that are old in my studying. America is not, nor has it started as a Christian nation. It was created by mostly theists, that is, people who believe in God in various ways, who sought protections on freedom under a commonly agreed upon principles, which have no problems with most theists, atheists, Jews, or Muslims, etc. It wasn't established to be a theocracy or theological Christian, and therefore, if you're a non-Christian, you are a second-class citizen. You know what I'm saying? And the ideals that make the backbone of the constitutional laws and so forth are common ideals that all these people, whether you're an atheist or theist, whatever, okay, don't steal, don't hurt people. I mean, it's fine. But a lot of the people who signed the Constitution were, I can't think of their name now. I knew I had it in my head and I lost it. Gosh, it'll come to me. They're a type of theology where they believe that God made the world and it kind of, and moved on to other things. and basically we're here to slip in there. Deists, that's it. I knew if I wouldn't think about it, it would come to me. But deism isn't really around anymore, but it actually is more now on the side of the left or right when they talk about running the world. The oligarchs are basically having a theology of atheist or deists, that now the people are actually going to move in and be the new gods or leaders. And this is what the elite are doing. But anyway, on the topic of this, there's a good book out. I realized they got an expanded edition, The Search for Christian America. It's a very good book written by Christian scholars who go through and quote extensively in the beginning of the making of the country, where they're quoting from these founding fathers saying, no, it's not a Christian nation. It's just based on some Christian principles which are universally good, accepted, whatever. So that's what I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, this is the article about the fiat crypto, which is good. And Assange is being squeezed in there. Now, Assange, they're claiming that he was involved in the hacking. He either commissioned it, facilitated it, or was supportive of the hacking. And in what Assange is saying, he just got this information, like the New York Times. You know, the Pentagon Papers were printed, and that was classified information. And it went, through the courts. It shows that you, as a publisher, can publish the stuff. The guy who got it to you is the problem. Is the person who is done the illegal things. As simple as can be. But the charges have been dropped in Sweden. And, much money, both in the Ecuadorian embassy, in helping and preventing, plus the people in the police in Britain. It's just ridiculous. I would love to see somebody come and get them, take them out of there, like the Chuck Norris or one of those movies where they come and sneak them out. I got more Tommy stuff. The North Korea thing, I don't really have nothing to say on that. I mean, to me, I think it's straightforward what it is. It's the art of the deal, walking away from the negotiations. I do have a link. Now, I'm going back to what would have been last week's stuff. I do have a link to bumper stickers that I made. And yeah, well, now somebody in the chat room was saying that he was an idiot he must have known he was going to get nailed and all that. Well, it's like, if you want to call it a Rosa Parks type of a deal, only a lot more violent, where you're going to say, no, that law is wrong. It's wrong to hide the trial that's going on in these things, and I'm going to make a stand for it. And he knew he was going to. He knew he could have gotten nailed. Yeah. Now, let me just say this about this whole Trump investigation thing. Well, by now, people who have been studying things on the internet and not listening to CNN as their source of information, and again, it's a CNN. It's on all the liberal newspapers as well, and the so-called conservative press, whatever it is out there, hasn't been, it hasn't been a glowing. I mean, Trump is not a Republican. He's not a right-wing Republican. He is a independent guy that has various parts around the area. And, I've said this before, my man was Ron Paul. Ron Paul had the legal, constitutional, scholarly ways to go back off the Federal Reserve, to bring the troops out of the area, stop wasting the money in other countries, stop the wars. I mean, he had it all out there. But he was a gentleman. He was a nice man. And the thuggery in politics, who like to have wars, who like to have all this stuff, pushed him off the stage. The difference with Trump is he pushed them off the stage. So, you're not going to get, when you ask for a warrior to come in there, you're going to get somebody who doesn't wipe his feet when he comes in the house, so to speak. You're going to get someone with stuff you don't like. And so now what's happening is you're having actual legal, real documents that are coming up that are going, exposing these guys who took over the left. I don't want to call them left in that they are leftists, but they're like neo-Maoist, neo-Bolsheviks, American style, who have centered themselves in that party. And if, people who didn't like it are, have left. And the stuff's coming out. Now, the question will be, there's a race to get Trump out of there because they think they can kowtow Pence, probably. So the idea is we got to get Trump out of there to stop this, and yet this stuff is being revealed. So there's like this race going on, and it's a race to see what gets done. And all of a sudden now Trey Gowdy has been caught dragging his feet and the covering for that. So, this is the time of the revealing. People are going to be revealed for what they stand for and what they are. They're going to be showing their spots, to use all these little metaphors. So keep your eyes open and your ears open, because people are going to blurt out and reveal their heart, what gnaws at their heart. The negativity is growing. If you have negativity at your heart, it'll grow. It's being fed by this negative energy, which is during this time of this revealing. And so Trump, what he is doing, if you want to say in a kind of a loosely way, he's a tool of God. In other words, his actions are causing people to come out, and you'll see people who will support the principles that Trump's talking about, which are very good and reasonable for the most part. I mean, like I say, I don't like how he bombed in Syria, but, his back's against the wall. He's got the military support. He's got some of the spade against him, so he's got to play a little ball here, give a little bone here, and work. I mean, this is way beyond my ability. I'm an ideologue when it comes to this stuff, and so I would A, never get elected, and B, would not, I would be tossed out of office somehow, because I'm also not that kind of a fighter. I'm more, I'm a little Ron Paulish when it comes to that. So let me stop there. Put this link up. My sister sent me a link, and she's been really an advocate for Klonopin and these other things that are. But this is the problem: is you have a diagnosis of anxiety, they give you Klonopin. Klonopin causes depression. Well, now we got to give you Wellbutrin. Diagnose agitated depression. Well, now we got Zyprexa. And you got neuropathy. Well, Neurotin. Neurotin causes cognitive impairment. Now, we'll use Adderall. And the next thing you know, you got this whole slew of drugs, which is ridiculous. And that's where a lot of things, where it comes to cannabis, when used and studied and used, can handle these things without having all these. That's one of the reasons why it's still illegal, because it can do a lot of help. And I got the banks. I did that. Did the banks. I got the Lee Robinson. I don't. What I do on this, I hate the word show. It's like doing a show, But I'm not here to try and change people's minds. Like, I'm going to have a point of view and I'm going to hammer it in and I'm going to debate. And I'm bringing up this information and giving my 2 cents, which is more of a critical thinking analysis, looking at these various sides. And so I'm not going to be sitting here cheerleading to a particular point, nor will I be avoiding other points. Everything's fair game here, which is the one reason why you can't pigeonhole me. Let's say, a lefty could look at me and say I'm clearly right, but then when I talk about some of my economic principles to the right wing, and say, well, that's a left principle or whatever. You can't take reality and split it into two. This is what is going on, is that when we're trying to look at this complicated picture, let me go back to my my article. When you When you break apart reality to analyze it, you can't break it in two and then pick one side as being what's right, what's wrong, because there's points for both sides. But when you break apart something into two pieces, there's like rips, right? So you got to fill in the edges, and so you're actually putting in data that's not really there. And this is why when you go back and study the beginning of Christianity, what we're looking at now is there was a battle in the split that already took place between what's now called the here we go. I can't remember the names now. It'll come to me. There's two. You have the Gnostics on one side, and you have the it's the Christianity we have on the other side, and it'll come to me. I hate that, but I can't help it. So you have a split in two, and the Gnostics lost to the other side, and so their writings and all that have not been copied well, and there's little pieces here and there, and so they've lost the political battle, which is run by the other side, which I still can't think of the name. And oh gosh, it's almost there. I'm saying like the word orthodontist is in my head. It's not it. It's an organic orthodontist. Anyway, so you have the two sides. So the Christianity that we know now has been splitting and subdividing. But when you want to go back and read writings, ancient writings, you're not going back. Orthodox, that's it. The term Orthodox. Thank you, Darth. Whereas Orthodox and the Gnostics are the proto-Christians, as they went forward in time, started to divide up. And then later on in the Orthodox side, you have the Armenian and the Calvinist, and of course the Catholic is its own thing. And you have all these various things that have come from it. When you want to find out, well, what was Jesus teaching? What were his followers like? All we have is the Bible, which is, especially when you get into the Gospels, were penned, let's say, 60, 70, 80 AD. And you have quotes from Jesus that I think are legitimate, carried in a narrative which has been created. So you have to be careful. That's why I always stick to watch what Jesus says. And it's probable that those were carried along, easy to remember. The sayings of Jesus were carried along, and then it was put together in a narrative. And those narratives are used today. We're watching narratives left and right, But my whole point is that when you do split things apart, you're destroying it. If you want to take them apart and put them back together and then split them a different way, put it together, split them a different way, now you're getting a two-dimensional view of a three-dimensional object in many different two-dimensional parts, so you're getting a better view of it. And so what I'm saying is I have a board on Facebook called the Left Extremist Watch. It's still there, but I'm not going to service it anymore. And what I would do was, when I come across things that are in this leftist extremist, and I'm not talking about Democrats, what they are now is a shell of what they were, but this group of Bolshevik, neo-Bolshevik, neo-Maoists, neo-Soviets, they have now centered inside that in the leftist area. And so real leftists that have came together are being used, if they're still there. They're being used to cover. And so anyway, I had a talk with a friend who it got a little heated, and he said that some of the things he was saying was that I'm a Christian Zionist from the United Jew States of America, meaning that the support for Israel, and we're not seeing how Israel is using the United States. And It's like, I'm not the person that you're thinking about, all right? But he's splitting people up. He's splitting things apart again. You're going to be a pro-Jew, a pro-Zionist, pro-Israelist. You're going to be against them. That's it. You got two sides. What side you on? Well, when I don't come out and make Israel the bad guy for everything, well, obviously I'm a pro-Zionist. And yet on the Zionist side, you're going to say, come at me, and have come at me, because I don't blindly support Israel. In fact, I've made statements that said Israel has nothing to do. The current Israel has nothing to do with the Bible. It may use it as a cloak, but it is a construct of humans. All governments are evil, like everywhere. Now, I haven't seen every single government, and it's possible that if the government is good and it's small, it might be good for a while, you know. But all seats of power draw to them, create and make and they seed and make and foster and nurture psychopaths. And the worst, the psychopath who's on the street, you know, killing somebody for gym shoes is real stupid, low IQ. So they're not going to be able to go up in the system. So they're doing their psychopathy as best they can, let's say, stealing gym shoes or robbing a store or whatever. So as your IQ increases, and you can go up into psychopathy and rule in areas. And so if you are a psychopath is going to be your basic, not carnivore, predator. A psychopath will be a predator. A beta psychopath will be a parasite. Psychopath and parasite are the flip sides of, but they're both on that side. And so they're going to go up into areas of power. So look around you. If you want to find psychopaths, you know, it's hard to find them. They don't walk around with a sign. They don't have like you put on glasses like on They Live and you can see they're reptilian or whatever. You know, you have to judge them by their fruits, to use the Jesus phrase, and their fruits are always going to end up being for themselves. Like, they can't give of themselves for a long experience of time because there's no value in it. There's no empathy in psychopathy. In fact, if you want to get the book, let me see, what is it? Error? Robert Hare. He's Canadian. He's pretty old now. He's not doing interviews. I tried to get an interview. Look up his books. Dr. Robert Hare, Snakes in Suits. And then Without Conscience. These are a couple of books that go. He wrote the book, so to speak, on psychopathy. And he's put together like a layman's list that you could use to try and recognize things. And one of the things that I remembered is, one, they won't give of themselves for others. They can do it very short term. And they can use it as a cover. But if you are looking at them in depth and are looking at them in open eyes, you know, they'll eventually see how it benefits them. And so, of course, where's the perfect places for psychopaths to hide under like wolf in sheep's clothing, right? Of religion, churches, or whatever religion, but religion itself, government, in armies, police, judges, in the legal system. These are where psychopaths will go, and the better they are, the higher they can rise, because they're both intelligent and have no scruples at all. They have no problem killing, maiming. In fact, they might even have fun torturing people because they have no empathy. They cannot feel pain. I mean, they feel their own pain in a limited sense, like, I'm mad, I didn't get my way, somebody hit me and it hurts. But to have an empathy is that, you know, when somebody lost a loved one, there is no loved one. There is, I have a wife because, or a husband because they're pretty or rich, or they do this for me. This is why you have it. You have lower level psychopaths like narcissists and sociopaths. You know, there's this like level of it. And this is the true evil that's plaguing humanity. Because when you do get someone who goes up to the top, takes off the mask, and just becomes, you know, the tyrant of tyrants, they're eventually going to die, or they'll get overthrown or something. And then someone else will do it. It might take decades. It might take 100 years, depending upon what it is. And so you're going to have these people. And because they're aggressive or passive-aggressive, they're going to get their way. I mean, I mentioned Ron Paul being pushed off the stage. Well, Trump has parts in his. People call him a narcissist. Well, his own way of doing things is fighting against them. I mean, you know, so you got to have a fighter if you're going to fight. So this is the thing. When you look and you say it's the Masons that are running, they're trying to take over the world or run the world, or it's the Zionists, or Jews, or if you want to get into, you know, they'll say the leftists who are mesmerized and hypnotized by their psychopaths will turn around and look at it's the Republicans. And, of course, you have, on a Republican level, you have their own psychopaths as well, using the Republican platform or conservatism or what have you to run. And look at the charities. I mean, do I have to bring up the Clinton charity, for example? It's got so many things wrong with it. And it's not being investigated. Charles Ortel has been doing a thing where he has gone through it, and he's the guy to look at in this. Because he's done a lot of work in it. So just find him on Twitter and go to websites. And, you know, if you want to read about his work, he's done so much work into legal aspects and the total lies. And people have put up with it because they're all involved in this. And so the point is, if you pick any one of those groups, and this is a study that you can do, like if you have a virus in your computer, if you take and you quarantine the virus, if the computer everything's back to normal again, well, okay, and then you think you found the problem, right? So if you take any one of those subdivisions of evil and you were to take them and to remove them, pick a group and then somehow be able to just have them disappear. My question is, would evil be gone from the planet? You know, and I think the obvious answer is, well, no. Yeah, but they're the worst evil. So if we get rid of those, then we can deal with normal evil. Are you going to tell me that psychopaths only appear in one of the subgroupings? It's possible that a subgrouping is so good or has a higher IQ, and thus the genetic IQ, and has a higher efficiency and greatness of psychopaths, okay? But they're still all over. And one group of psychopaths will tell you, yeah, you got to go get those psychopaths. So then they step in. I mean, look what happened in Cuba. They were going to get rid of the, what's his name, Castro. Well, as soon as we get done with this, I'm not going to be president. Well, you know, there he is. He died still being leader there. And so, you know, once you get into that power, and it's the exercising of the power, this is the part that you also understand, too. It's not just, yep, excuse me, I got to this level, I got this power, now I can sit back and just like revel in the power. It doesn't work that way. The psychopaths have to actually exert the power. In other words, if you're a manager and you have psychopathy of some lower or higher degree, you know, you get joy of making other people dance for you. And the people who dance for you well, you're going to resent even more, because you go, look at this person. He's just a suck-up. And, you know, so it's like the people who think they're getting along with the psychopath are the hated. So this is what the whole world is. And so, like, when I looked at this website, I was talking to this individual saying that we can't focus on one group. I mean, there might be people whose calling is to focus on one aspect of this evil. Like, for example, I mentioned Charles Ortel is focusing on the Clinton thing. Now, the Clinton Foundation is not the source of all evil. It's part of it, from what he has shown. So there might be people who focus on certain aspects of it, and that would be their expertise. There's police who follow gangs, and they're more savvy on how gangs work and all that. So naturally it'll group up that way. So fine. That's why if you want to pick a subgroup to be your serious expertise, just think all subgroups know that the psychopaths at the top know they're doing evil, and they are smart. They're not real long-term smart. One of the things that Robert Harris says that they're real slick at coming up with lies, right? Boom, 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 right at the top. That's why people use the word slick. If someone's real slick and can get away with stuff and they're good liars, they probably have some kind of level of psychopathy. The problem is they're good at coming up with stories, but they're not good at threading those stories together. So a psychopath can usually be found by coming up with stories, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, you said this. Because they don't have that kind of memory. They're short-term memory affluent. They're real comfortable. So yeah, they can come up with stuff real quick, but over time, you're going to catch them in contradictions. And if you say something, I said that, no, I meant this, and give you an example. We got the YouTube time machine, and you got politicians saying this, and here's a YouTube of them saying the other thing, and no, I never said that. There's a YouTube of you. But because the left structure won't play the YouTube of the left politician, they'll play the YouTube of the right politician, and the right group will play the left politician, but there's a thermal break between the two. So you have people who are following leftist principles are going to be watching CNN, they're not going to be watching Fox. And even worse, they're not going to be reading Zero Hedge or following Drudge or whatever to get other points of view. They're not going to happen. They're going to stick to their system. So you can hide everything in plain sight because they won't go see it. You can have all the proof in the world being laid out in a very easy, nice way on a 2-hour special or something on Fox, let's say, or on the web. It is it won't be mentioned at all. And in fact, if it starts to get picked up, they'll start to say things. Remember with the CNN's greatest line, well, you can't, reading WikiLeaks, you can't read this, it's illegal, but we can read it because we're news and we can let you know. What? So this is the problem. And so what I was doing was I'm putting all this left stuff out, and it's not wrong, it's true. But I said, I think I want to focus more on first off, let me get to this point. I'm looking at this quote here. Oh, I switched screens here. Let me go back to that screen. I've taken a quote from Jesus, and I've put in some descriptors to talk about the thrust of the words behind the English. But continually seek with first priority his kingdom and his righteousness, his being God. And all these things will be provided unto you. Now, those things in the context were clothing, food, and so forth, the basics. But I would submit that if we seek to have this, read the Beatitudes, for example, if we seek to put ourselves in that type, get ourselves to be that type of, we hold those principles in ourselves. We are those principles. We seek them, continually seek those principles, and to be keeping on doing right, finding out what is right and doing it and seeking it and have it become second nature to us. We become that type of a person. You'll get all kinds of answers. You'll see. Talk about being woke. That's a phrase I'm not too thrilled with, the people waking up. Wake up. People are asleep. They're sheeple. Well, yeah, we all are asleep. Some are waking up more than others. Some are waking up in a smaller area, but they're louder about it. So I don't sit here and say well, I'm all woke up. Somebody who thinks they are will go, yeah, you're not woke up because you don't believe this thing or you don't agree with this point. You're not woke. It just means that their point of view is not being addressed, so therefore I must be still asleep because obviously they're awake. And, This applies across humanity, across the board, so that when we see somebody who's not following what we think, well, they're wrong, because I've looked into this matter. Well, you've looked into it to some degree and come up with a point that hopefully you've critically analyzed, and it matches here and there and everything. You just don't go finding what makes it match. You look for those contradictions and then put those in there, and then you can be stronger on it. You don't find any, okay, you have a position that may get more information, which will change a little bit. That's why you have to be firm in your beliefs, but open to examine them constantly. That's why I'm using the term here in seeking. Continually seek with this first priority. What's my first goal? To continually seek kingdom of God and his righteousness. In other words, you can't find it on this planet with the evil that is inherent in us and others. You can't get to that point and go, I have sought it. I am now the kingdom, and I'm the righteousness. You can continually seek it. You will always be short of it. It's an infinity. It's a thing that is beyond humanity, but the seeds of it are there, so they can grow, and you can be good enough. I mean, there's like a point when you're growing toward it, that's good. God looks at that as good. It doesn't say, did you make it? It's not the point. The point is that you're growing toward it, and you're continually wanting it. And when you do that, you'll see. You'll realize in your group, you realize in yourself. I've went through my own. I was a Sunday school teacher, adult Sunday school teacher in a fundamentalist church, and I've sought with open honesty to know, the Word of God, and I studied in the Bible, and I learned what the Greek and Hebrew and the phrases behind it, and the history of the words, and what they meant at the time. And when I put that all together, some of the doctrines are like, wait a minute, I don't know if that's, I think, yeah, but there's more to it, or something like that, And that's what happens, is that the people who get a particular ideal, whether it's religion, whether it's a country, patriotism, or ethnicity, or whatever you may cut the human pie, whatever your thing is, you can't judge individuals right and wrong by those slices, because each slice has its own right and wrong. And you slice that slice, and there's right and wrong. Then you slice that slice, and you get down to the bone and the marrow, and you still have right and wrong. And that's where it takes the work of Jesus and following those principles, where you can learn those things. So when you're saying it's the Jews or the Zionists or the Catholics, the Pope is the Antichrist, Trump is the Antichrist, Obama is the Antichrist. When you start to point out who is the king of evil, the real king of evil laughs, because the real inspiration behind all of this, is, whether you want to literally take it to the devil or Satan, you want to literally personify it, or you want to say it's a spirit of Antichrist. However you want to look at it, it doesn't matter, because that spirit is coming up through all of us. Whenever you get mad and yell at something, you've succumbed to the spirit of evil. Oh, it might be just, I had a bad day, and, okay, I understand it. It doesn't make it okay. It's understandable. And when you're dealing with people, you can forgive and work things out and so on. When you have that spirit of God in there, when that spirit comes up of evil comes up, you can call it what it is. You can okay, and let it go, and realize you're susceptible to it, and work on not being susceptible to it. So, making a mistake or finding evil in your life isn't the end of the world. All it is saying, hey, here's something you need to work on. Now, hopefully, there are secular laws here and all that, so you find out it's evil by, raping a woman or killing somebody or whatever, and I just found out that's evil. Well, there's consequences living in the world for that. But you would accept those consequences because you found, and I understand this is all idealistic, but it's true, and this should be used on it. So I know on the internet world in particular, starting with Art Bell on the radio and through the internet world, everybody has got a view, and these guys are the wrong or these guys are the right, and this is the way it is, and this is the way it is. And then the people who agree with that point coagulate around that. And you have these groups, coagulated groups arguing, and it misses the whole big picture. And when someone comes up with a basic principle, I'm saying, like, whatever group you want to put it in, and whatever you want to analyze about the group, there's going to be true and falseness to it. So if I find someone who has negative traits and I see it, I go, well, immediately I should look at myself. I recognize this problem, so I'm going to go look at myself now with these glasses, looking out. Now I look in and find what it is. And when you start out, when your paradigm is shattered in the beginning, if you survive it, you're a broken person. If you can survive it and start rebuilding a new paradigm, you're a little bit more cautious about coming up with, absolutes. Arbitrary absolutes is what I call it, because you've already had your head broken open, your soul broken open, your heart busted open. And it's like, wait a minute. When you realize that finding out you're wrong is not evil, it's refusing to see you're wrong is evil, or to teach and to find evidence to support your being correct when you're wrong is evil, and that grows. And people who like to have that opinion and are looking for reasons to justify it come to you, and you give them more. Hey, you're a good talker. You got knowledge. You're a good propagandist. You can give more stuff. And, I can keep my beliefs. And I'm not saying it's like someone's like a pedophile and they're trying to justify it. I mean, there are things that have been wrong for many years and still are wrong, and to try and justify pedophilia is kind of ridiculous. But people will do it because they're so desperate to get what they want, evil or not. But there are people who will justify evil knowing it's evil and go, yeah, it's evil, and I'll come up with an excuse for it, and I want to do it because I want to do it. And that is where you get the psychopathy. The people say things like they don't have a soul. And I don't know if they don't. I don't know if it's disconnected to such a degree that the godly influence can't come through, or perhaps it's the evil soul that's coming through. I don't know all the details on this, and I don't want to start coming up with answers on that, which is going to take away from the focus. The focus, when you say things like all have sinned and fallen short of glory to God, all right, it's a nice lofty spiritual statement, but the idea is that it's true. For whatever reason, there is evil brewing in all our DNA, in all our world around us. And we need, and Jesus enters space and time as a teacher. And then you have like the Holy Spirit, or however you want to phrase it, God behind, working on the inside out. God works on the inside out. People like Jesus and other philosophers work from the outside in. I mean, Jesus works from the inside out too. He said he was going to send his Spirit and all this. Again, I don't want to get into details on theology, because people will go like, oh, what, don't you think that the Spirit is part of God and Jesus? And I'm not going to listen to what you're saying. And we've come up with so many little minute details and missed the whole picture. So I'll put links to this article. You can read it. It's not, I pretty much said everything that would be in it. It's probably, if you read it, it's probably a more concise, nice way to do it than have me rambling on here. But it's the problem I have. I mean, it's the problem I have when I go on the internet. Hold on, I'm going to do this here. I have some allergies or something. It's the problem I have is because when people are so locked and loaded from certain aspects being fed on the internet by the echo chambers, that you walk into a discussion on something and it becomes an argument. It becomes an attack. Oh, you're not supporting me. You're an enemy. If you're not for me, you're against me. And I'm not for anybody. I'm not against anybody. I'm for the truth, the principles that Jesus taught of God. I'm for those principles. And when you fulfill those principles, when you love one another, it doesn't mean you go up to a murderer who's murdering people and say, "I love you." I won't rule that out, because in a certain case, maybe that person, God will work through them. I mean, but I'm just saying, in talking in general terms, see, I don't want to say anything, because, there's just, I forgot who said it in the New Testament, don't be there not many teachers, for they'll come under a greater condemnation. And that's why when I'm talking about stuff, it's like, look, I'm just sharing this information. This is what I got. You got some feedback on it? You got some comments on it? Can we talk about it? I'm just sharing this stuff for people's further knowledge and information, and they can do whatever they want with it. I'm not pushing it. But when you ask me something, or when I'm in a situation, somebody posts on my post and says something, we're talking in public, and they say something, and they say, but this, I'm going to answer, because it's also our jobs to share information, to bring light in the darkness. Sometimes we'll bring light. Sometimes we'll have the light shined on us. And when you look at life this way, you're more humbled. You don't go out there swaggering Mr. Know-It-All. You're humbled, because the more you know, the less you know. So it ends up becoming this whole ideas of humility, seeking wisdom and knowledge in humility. And when you continually seek it with first priority for his kingdom and his righteousness, I'm going to use this aspect of the kingdom is have it be your hierarchy inside you, your mechanism. Make it be your mechanism inside. That's your kingdom inside. Your brain is the king, and I don't know, whatever. But your mechanism is, and to have your mechanism match examples being taught, the principle being taught, Jesus in particular, is what I've chosen. I mean, I've made that choice. I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying I would recommend it. I mean, this is how I got here, is by going through trials and error. I went from that church back to square one. Is there a God? Is the Bible actually something? I went back to zero and I retraced it. And here's where I am. We do have a less visible. Come think of it, I didn't download it and process it, even though I could have. And so I can do it live by going to his website. If people have questions, in particular about biblical applications or Christianity and so forth, I welcome them, and I'll address them. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I'm saying that I'm a critical thinker who went through a lot of stuff, and I'll share my work with you. I'll share my notes. And if you're looking for someone who's going to tell you all the answers, you're going to be deceived. Either you'll never find them, or you'll be deceived. And I started doing that. I started looking for, maybe this way is right. Maybe this way is right. And I kept finding, using critical analysis, the lack of contradiction, I kept finding wrong. And then I realized, hey, you know what? No one's got it right. And then I went back and started looking for the principles are right. And I built my own theology the best I can, so that I can stand before God and say, here is why you know my inside. You know why I've done this stuff, and I've relied on Jesus to be the Savior in many ways. So, it's funny when words mean words. Some people, say, hey, what are you, a Christian? I would say, yeah, because I follow the teachings of Jesus, a Jesusan or whatever. And, then you believe in this, that, and the other thing, and they start going into the Christian theologies, Catholic, Baptist, Lutheran, whatever. And I disagree with all of those, though there are principles found in all those that do make sense. So, anyway, I hope all that made sense and wasn't just a bunch of gobbledygook tossed in. So, let me, excuse me for the Let me find Les here. I think I can do it pretty quick, and I'll just show his thing. But I usually download it and I alter the view of it and change color and and all this stuff. Try to make it, but I haven't. Where is it now? There he is. There we go. And I'm going to stop it, though, for a minute. All right, let's see how this looks. Web page. Yeah, that'll work. So we're going to go to less visible and see what he says. I want to mention that I don't pre-listen to these things. I asked Les to give his points, and, whatever you hear coming out of his mouth is Les. My only thing for anybody is to be civil, swearing, name callings, and all that stuff, which, I'm not saying he would do it, but I'm just saying that that's all. I mean, as far as you don't have a different view to me. He said things that I don't agree with, and the things that I have agreed with, so it's not a question of being an echo chamber here at Feet to the Fire. It's the idea of having different ideas that you can take, and you could use the lack of contradiction analysis of it in your model. Sometimes you'll change, sometimes the information coming in will change. And here we go with less visible.
Welcome, and greetings from the universe. All those brothers and sisters, Arcturus, Sirius Cluster, and our more recent arrivals from Alpha Centauri and the Pleiades, and the saucer pod, Holy Mother of God. Something righteous this way comes. Ain't life grand, my friends? You struggle for years often in this private Sisyphean routines of relentless 2 steps forward, 1 back, and whoops, maybe right another 1 back. And then one day, like Lord Buckley said, poof, those out there upon the cool, clear sands of serenity. I like Lord Buckley. Can I get a hallelujah? Can I get an amen? Can I get there and back again? I don't know. What a world, what a life, I'm in love. Or something. I don't know if I could be any more grateful that all of you are here today, whoever you are, wherever you are, and whoever you are, and that's how it is with friends. They stick by you. They got your back. They pull your coat. Those who love the most are most forgiven. Something to that effect. It is said that God is incomprehensible, but what often gets lost in the mix is that love is incomprehensible too. Mm-hmm. And the more you work love, the more love works you. Written heart and put away wet, but in all the best of ways. It's win-win all the time when you're moving and you're grooving on God's dime, which is really a Liberty dollar and a get out of jail free card. There we are again. How can anything be more magnificent? Huh. How can anything have any more value than that? We look anywhere else for anything else. Love is the shape of the form that it comes in. Love authenticates and validates. Indeed. You can have the same thing with or without love, and the product may be meaningful or meaningless. And this is the fruit of the process for the selfish and the generous. The more you give it away, the more it comes back to you. It's a law. You can depend on it. You don't have to think because it's always thinking about you. We go wrong when we get caught up in thinking. As they say, God, the devil is in the details. This is why you make plans and God laughs. Of course, there's an explanation. Because you do have to plan some things. Perhaps it's like grip tightly and hold lightly. Does that make any sense? That's the point. That's where the Zen comes in. There's Bodhidharma staring into that wall. There have been some amazing people that have come and gone here, you know. Padmasambhava, Milarepa, so many more. Their lives were tales that resounded as an example of truth that carry us, because we got many rivers to cross, and I cannot seem to find my way over. You don't have to think about it because it's thinking about you, and when we get caught up in thinking, as I just said, I don't know. Of course, there's an explanation, because, well, I repeat myself. This is why beauty can be a curse, because all real beauty shines right through. You don't need color by Revlon. You don't need to move like a cat in the night. Why don't you stand in the light and love me? To that effect. You trust God, and God is the linchpin of all that is true. God sees everything. Look at that picture that Michelangelo, or I think it was him, or Vinci, well, painted on the Sistine Chapel. Or that Suzanne photoshopped of God handing me a guitar, which is the cover for my album of God and Country. And you see the gap between the reaching hands. That is the distance for the leap of faith. We spend our lives gripping the top of a wall, afraid to let go. We might fall and die. And at some point we let go and we find we were only inches from the ground. Yeah. Can I get a witness? Don't leave me witless. Lord, love a duck. You know, I used to love to eat duck, and I was having duck one night and I went, oh, it's terrible. I didn't know what was going on. God said, ducks are my special creatures. Don't you eat them visible. And I got that with that rare. These are the really interesting synchronicity coincidences just out of the peripheral. The eternal evidence that you can't walk home alone. This is why there are atheists who do not choose to intuit what is self-evident, but true nonetheless. You can see God everywhere, or you can see God nowhere. God has gone out of his way to prove to me that he is there, over and over and over. That's one of the more profound examples of when God really loves you. When God really loves you and is backing your play, he makes it a point to take the cover slips off of the hidden truth that we in our mortal blindness conceal. He point blank says, sweetheart, you're coming home with me. And I like the sound of that, man, because, well, frankly, I love God. I love God more than anything I can possibly tell you about. And he blows my mind. He's in the tamarind. And suddenly Visible got lost and did not know what he was talking about. And then he was back. Here's the message that grace has for us. You can do all the Bill Mayer scorning and scoffing that you want to do. I cannot see the profit in this kind of arrogant presumption. There's no upside, and there's only a downside, and that's the direction that perspective generates. I'll tell you what. It ain't me, babe. No, it ain't me, babe. It ain't me you're looking for, babe. As they say in poker, I'm all in, okay? I don't care what you have in your hand. I might care, given the destiny that your self-importance creates. Surely I commiserate with the unfortunate spectacle of you seeking to hoodwink your fellows and all that false bravado that you think to be courage, but which clearly demonstrates a lack of conviction. Yeah, you better come on in God's kitchen, 'cause it's gonna be raining outdoors. You gotta move. 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 'Cause when the Lord gets ready, you gotta move. That's right. Well, you know how it goes. Or maybe you don't. But I'm telling you. Now, I haven't been drinking or anything like that. You know, I tried to, a little more kind of sober existence, but I'm drunk on the Lord these days. This love that intoxicates and fills me has made me drunk on the Lord. I'm intoxicated with God. And I love the Lord God Almighty, all my heart, all my mind, all my soul, with all my strength. I love me some God. Thank you, Lord. You are so incredible. Yeah, I'm a fool. Probably not the best example of anything, really, but I know what it is that I want and I'm after this life, and that for me sums it up. All right, my friends, come to the end of the broadcast, and you'll see me next week if there is one. In the meantime, keep your mind on your drive and keep your hands on the wheel. Keep your snoopy eyes on the road all day. 'Cause I'm having fun sitting in the back seat, hugging and kissing with God. That said, hail Lord Jesus Christ. Hare Krishna. Much love, Lady Nature. Om Amitabha. Greetings, my good friend, Lord Ganesh. Micham Ambu Guru Bawa. Bismillah. Irrahman. Irrahim. Carry on, Malula. Aloha and Aru. And I will see you one of these days.